Just a few months ago, Bubba Wallace looked like he was putting together one of the strongest seasons of his career. Then the results started slipping, the questions got louder, and suddenly fans began wondering whether 23XI Racing would even keep him for 2027. Now, one of NASCAR's most trusted insiders has finally weighed in, and what he revealed could put those rumors to rest once and for all. So, if you want to know what this means for Bubba Wallace, 23XI Racing, and why his recent performances still matter, make sure you stay with us until the very end. Before we begin, if you enjoy honest NASCAR news and commentary every day, don't forget to subscribe to NASCAR Nation News and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. For weeks, speculation about Bubba Wallace's future has continued to grow. The timing made sense. 23XI Racing has already locked Tyler Reddick into a long-term deal, and Corey Heim has officially been announced as a full-time Cup Series driver beginning in 2027. That naturally left fans asking one question: what happens to Bubba Wallace? After all, 2026 started exactly the way every driver hopes it will. Wallace was running near the front, collecting strong finishes, and looked capable of producing the most consistent season of his Cup career. At that point, very few people questioned whether he'd remain with the team. But NASCAR seasons are long. Momentum can disappear quickly. Unfortunately for Wallace, that's exactly what happened. Instead of continuing that early success, his season turned into a frustrating mix of bad luck, accidents, and missed opportunities. The speed hasn't disappeared completely, but the finishes certainly have. As those disappointing weekends piled up, fans naturally began wondering whether 23XI Racing might look in another direction. That's where FOX Sports insider Bob Pockrass entered the conversation. According to Pockrass, Bubba Wallace is expected to be back with 23XI Racing in 2027, continuing to drive the number 23 Toyota alongside Tyler Reddick and Corey Heim. That statement may sound simple, but it carries a lot of weight. Pockrass is one of the most respected reporters covering NASCAR. And when he shares an expectation like this, people across the garage pay attention. It also changes the discussion. Instead of asking whether Wallace is about to lose his ride, the focus shifts toward whether he can finish this season strong enough to justify that confidence. And that's where things become interesting. Even though the headlines have focused on his struggles, Wallace isn't completely out of the picture. He's still sitting above the chase cut line with an important points advantage, meaning his postseason hopes remain very much alive. Of course, nobody inside the number 23 team wants to rely only on points. Everyone knows the easiest way to end the conversation is by winning. That's something Wallace hasn't managed to do this season despite showing competitive speed at several races. The frustrating part is that many of his problems haven't come from a lack of pace. Several races have been affected by incidents that weren't entirely under his control, while others simply slipped away because the team couldn't capitalize when opportunities appeared. When you combine all of that, the statistics don't always tell the whole story. Still, NASCAR is ultimately judged by results. That's why the pressure around Wallace has continued to grow. Another factor that shouldn't be ignored is how much Bubba means to 23XI Racing itself. He was the original driver when the organization launched in 2021. Since then, he's helped establish the team's identity, delivered race victories, and most memorably earned the Brickyard 400 Crown Jewel victory that became one of the biggest moments in team history. Replacing a driver like that isn't a decision any organization makes lightly. Meanwhile, the addition of Corey Heim doesn't necessarily mean someone had to leave. Heim was already viewed as the future of Toyota's driver development program, and 23XI had been preparing for his full-time arrival for quite some time. So rather than pushing Wallace out, The current expectation is that the team will move forward with 3 drivers: Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, and Corey Heim. Now let's look at Bubba's recent races, because that's where this story becomes even more important. One reason these rumors spread so quickly is because Bubba's recent results have been a mixture of encouraging speed and frustrating setbacks. At Chicagoland, he reminded everyone what the number 23 team is capable of by finishing 6th after running near the front and leading laps. That performance suggested the pace was still there. The following week at Atlanta, it looked like Wallace had bounced back in a big way. He crossed the finish line in 2nd after an intense battle for the lead, but the celebration didn't last long. NASCAR ruled that he had advanced below the yellow line on the final lap, handing him a post-race penalty that dropped him all the way to 29th. Wallace disagreed with the decision afterward, saying, "It says advancing your position," which I did not do, arguing that he actually lifted off the throttle to avoid causing a wreck. Instead of letting that disappointment define his season, Wallace responded with another solid run at North Wilkesboro, bringing the number 23 Toyota home in 6th. Those 3 races tell the real story. The speed has been good enough to compete near the front, but the final results haven't always reflected how competitive the team has actually been. That's exactly why opinions on Bubba Wallace's future have become so divided heading into the final stretch of the season. His last several weekends haven't produced the finishes fans expected. Instead of building on his strong start, Wallace has found himself battling poor results, losing valuable points, and watching the playoff pressure increase almost every week. Those races created the rumors. When a driver goes through a rough stretch while teammates are succeeding, questions are inevitable. But that's exactly why Bob Pockrass's update matters. It suggests that 23XI Racing isn't making decisions based on a handful of disappointing races. Now, that doesn't mean he can simply coast through the rest of the season. Far from it. And if he can finally return to victory lane, today's conversation about his future may look unnecessary just a few months from now. For now, though, one thing appears much clearer than it did before. Despite all the rumors, despite the recent struggles, and despite the speculation surrounding the team's future lineup, the expectation from one of NASCAR's most trusted insiders is that Bubba Wallace will still be driving the number 23 Toyota for 23XI Racing in 2027. Now the challenge is simple. Go out, deliver results, and prove that confidence was fully deserved. If you enjoyed this update, make sure to subscribe to NASCAR Nation News, leave a like, and let us know in the comments. Do you think Bubba Wallace deserves another contract with 23XI Racing, or does he need a stronger finish to earn it? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.